So I'm here with Evelyn Rai. That's my auntie. She just went over to Ghana, visited Africa, and got a chance to do something historic that a lot of us, can only dream of doing and stuff. I always wanted to go over to see Africa after seeing Malcolm X go over there and visit the motherland and stuff and see where our culture and our history come from and stuff. So you was a part of a cultural exchange with individuals and institutions over there in Africa, over in particularly Ghana. Why do you see a need for a cultural exchange between Black America and the African continent?
Mm-hmm. Very good question. Let me just kind of back it up. First of all, thank you, nephew, my nephew, Kwame, aka Jayon. Yeah, so as an artist and having 30 years of experience in the business and always taking seriously the gift that I've been given, I counted it a privilege to go over to Ghana, West Africa in this year of the return. This is the year that marks 400 years of the transatlantic slave era that we now understand as those who are the descendants of those individuals who were taken captive. We now have an opportunity to tell our own story and to have our own narrative. And so it was a privilege to be able to go to Ghana, West Africa, who has opened her doors and her heart, I could say, to the diaspora. Being a Black American and being an artist, I know that music is healing. I know that is a universal language. And I know that the arts has a place in societal structures that can speak to issues and concerns that a lot of other things can't. Mm-hmm. So when you come together on a common ground like music, dance, theater, pictures, art, period, creative energy can be so healing. Mm-hmm. And so going over there, why I found it a need for a cultural exchange is because there's so many misconceptions about how we see Africans, mm-hmm. and how Africans see us. Now, Africa is a continent. Mm-hmm. So we're speaking about like 52 or something countries, or however many countries are over there. I'm sounding not real smart right now. But Ghana, West Africa, as a country in and of itself, is akin to us here in Black America in the sense that it was a slave trading port, and that we can, a lot of us here can trace our roots back there. So the need for the exchange is to bring healing, okay. To bring understanding, okay. To bring relationship. Right. We need to learn about one another, not in the context of how we've been told to think about one another.
Right. Absolutely. What are the similarities between Ghana, West Africa, and Black America that you see? And what are some of the dissimilarities that you see that makes us culturally, and different, and not only geographically, but all around the board that you see between Ghana, West Africa, and Black America as a whole?
Great questions again. I'll start with the similarities.
Okay.
So we are over there in December, right? I've been home like a week, not even a week yet. And it's holiday time over there. It's Christmas time over there too. Wow. Similarities. Mm-hmm. Everybody's hustling and bustling about, getting ready for Christmas. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And shopping is going on. Went to several great malls over there. Mm-hmm. The vendors are out. The street vendors are out trying to get that sale on. People are very conscientious that it's holiday time. And so it was really good. A lot of festivals going on and a lot of festivities happening. Mm-hmm. So that was a similar thing. I was really caught off guard because it's like 90 degrees and palm trees and you know what I'm saying? But it's Christmas time, and so you go into a restaurant or you go into a establishment and you're seeing Christmas lights and decorations. So I was like, okay, so they're, so another similarity was the way they handle each other. Like, they refer to me as auntie. Mm-hmm. I'm a little older, so, it was like auntie and uncle. So it was like that whole communal, that village kind of feel. Mm-hmm. You see your elders, you respect your elders. I love the way the brothers treat the sisters over there. And there was so
Okay.
many fine brothers over there. Oh, my Lord. But just to see their interactions in a very respectful way to their sisters, really treating us like respected vessels. And I love the way I saw the sisters respecting the brothers.
Okay.
So I saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of stuff that we used to do as children growing up, in the way we interact with our older generation of people.
Okay.
So those were some similarities. Dissimilarities, maybe? Is that the right word?
It can be, geographical. It could be cultural. It could be, the class aspect. I think you were speaking about, like, over there, it's mainly a divide between rich and poor over there, where over here you have the rich, you have the middle class, and you also have the poor over here.
So speaking to that, the dissimilarity would be that there is not a strong middle class over there. Yeah, so you see those that are very wealthy, or those that have wealth, and those that don't. It's just like there's no real middle, but there is, let me say it this way, there is a growing middle class.
Okay.
Because the diaspora are returning home. Okay. And they're bringing with them their wealth, their ingenuity, their expertise, their businesses, their ideas. And so you're finding that many Africans, though they have studied abroad, that they are now coming back home. Okay. And they're growing their own nation. Okay. And I think the dissimilarity is that whereas this is a cutting edge of a people growing its own nation, we are in Black America fighting to still have rights in our nation. Okay. And so our poverty is different, because whereas we know that we are citizens here, we're still a bottom class. And we know different, whereas they don't know different over there, and only those that have studied abroad and brought things back. So what I'm saying is, it's like they're not walking around sad and disheartened and disgruntled. They're just doing life, and they're living life the way that it has to be lived, because that's all they know. Whereas if you experience a measure of wealth and prosperity, it's more that you would be disgruntled.
Right. Okay. So my last question for you, you sent me a thing on Instagram with this African sister, and she was talking about neo-colonialism, white power, and blackface. And I was speaking about that a lot recently on Facebook. The Wretched of Earth by Franz Fanon. He was a revolutionary of the Algerian Revolution. He talks about colonialism and neo-colonialism a lot, and the Africans have experienced that more so directly with their black presidents and different people that they've elevated to power. Before then, the colonizers were Europeans. They were white. So people saw their oppressor. They saw the oppression. They knew who was selling them out. But then they end up coming up with a new strategy by putting a neo-colonialist strategy by putting in people that look just like the people, but those people are still carrying out white supremacist policies on their country and stuff, selling off their resources, taking over their the corporations, setting up shop, exploiting the people, child labor. And we have a lot of that internally here in the United States with some of the individuals that's in power, presidents, mayors, police chiefs and stuff. They represent still a black face, but white power, and carrying out neo-colonialist policies against the black community, which lulls us to sleep, because we think just because they look like us, they fighting for us, they standing up for us. But then we find out at the end of the day, this police chief that's black, or this mayor that's black, they're not prosecuting these police that's killing us. They're going along with the system just like the white power structure and stuff. So I want to hear, what is your take after your experience of going over to Ghana, West Africa, and experiencing that culture for a couple weeks over there? What is your take on neo-colonialism now?
Well, again, you have great questions. That is a mouthful, and it would take more than the time we had. But getting an understanding of what one deals with, when one is able to put a name or a term or a construct to an experience, then one can process, because you can know what you're dealing with. It's hard to do that when you don't really know or can define what it is you're dealing with. So when we went over to Ghana, we decidedly went the way we went, not as tourists, but to actually experience culture. Oppression is oppression no matter where you are in the world. And the perpetrators of that oppression, as we are understanding through neocolonialism, can look like us or not. And it is often misunderstood when your oppressor does look like you. Because you assume that they are going to identify with your struggle. You assume that they're going to identify with your pain. You assume that they're going to be an advocate for you. But you find out, much to your disappointment, that though they look like you, they are not you. And neocolonialism is like one of these things where our world is sick. The emperor has on no clothes, but nobody wants to talk about this truth. And your generation now is that group that says, we see the emperor has on no clothes and we're going to talk about it. My generation was, we see the emperor has on no clothes, we're going to act like we don't see it, and we're not going to talk about it. That's not healing. That's a coping mechanism.
Right.
And we are now at critical mass as a people because it is classism now that is to the point that we as Black Americans are at the bottom of the class structure. And there is no safety net. And for many of the nations of the world who are suffering under the hand of neocolonialism, they're finding that they are too a bottom class and there is no safety net. And so when it comes to the context of what we're talking about, a cultural exchange, interaction between Black America and the countries of Africa, because continentally speaking, Ghana is just but one country that has opened its doors and hearts. Other countries are following. But the understanding we have to have is that there is an oppression that all of us can identify with.
Right.
And when we see that our government officials, that our political officials, our police, our judges, those who are supposed to be our magistrates to protect and divide the law rightfully amongst the people are not doing that, then what we have to do as a people is we have to come together on the things that we can agree upon that make us stronger and use our power with one voice and one mind and say enough of this system.
Right.
Because there can be no change if no matter what we've done over 400 plus years, the same structure is in place.
Right.
And all you do is change the people in position.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so when it's everyday Susie, Sally, Joe, Kwame, Akua, Abina, and we're all just saying, you know what? I can take my little people right here, my group of influence, and I can make a difference right here.
Right.
I'm not going to play this game. I throw my ball in and I'm not playing that game anymore.
Right.
And that's how change happens.
Right.
It's like when you're committed to me, I'm committed to you. We're committed to making sure that we all eat.
Right.
Then we defeat neocolonialism.
It was a pleasure talking to you. I think a lot of the people that's going to be hearing this is going to find this is something that's going to be thought-provoking. And that's what we have. That's the start of the conversation, to start rebuilding our community and start building solidarity and start bridging the gap between the divide and getting back to that real village. Yes. Because it's going to take a village. Yes. They always say a village to raise a child. Yes. Well, we need a...
And those are African proverbs. That's
Absolutely.
And I want to tell you that. That's where it all started. Right. That's the cradle of civilization. And that's what I did see over there. I saw people concerned about one another. Things we used to have here, but we started to become like our colonizers. Right. And we've made it an individual thing and not a collective thing. Right. Yeah. So that proverb, it takes a village, it's just us.
Right.
Yep.
Well, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.